Welcome to Lost Relation Chronicles. I always believed I had done everything right. Work hard, stay loyal, provide for your family. Those were the values I built my life around. For 50 years, I followed that blueprint without question. My name is Thomas Martin. The late September wind carried a hint of autumn's bite as I pulled into the driveway. The engine of my old Honda ticked softly as it cooled, a familiar, oddly comforting sound after the long drive home. Today was my 50th birthday, half a century of life behind me, and yet I felt a strange calm about it all. I'd even left the office early, looking forward to whatever modest celebration my family might have planned. Maybe Jessica had baked a cake. Maybe Andrew and Kimberly had made handmade cards. Nothing extravagant that was never our style, but something to mark the day. But as I stepped closer to the house, something felt off. It was unusually dark. No kitchen lights where Jessica usually prepped dinner. No glow from Andrew's room, where the volume was typically maxed out on his video games. No music from Kimberly's room either, just silence. "Hello," I called. As I pushed open the front door, my voice echoed through the stillness. "Anyone home?" No answer. I checked my phone. No texts, no missed calls, not even a happy birthday. An uneasy feeling crept into my stomach, but I brushed it off. Maybe they were planning some kind of surprise. Maybe they were just running late. I changed out of my work clothes and wandered into the kitchen to grab a beer. That's when I saw it. My laptop sitting open on the counter. I rarely left it there. Andrew must have used it again without asking. The browser was open. Instagram, still logged into Jessica's account. A photo stared back at me taken 3 hours earlier. My wife, my kids, all on a pristine beach. Drinks in hand, big carefree smiles. The caption read, "Surprise vacation. Finally getting some quality family time without the negative energy. Best decision ever. Family reset. No regrets." I stared at the screen, struggling to process what I was seeing. My finger hovered over the trackpad as I scrolled through the comments. Jessica's father, Edward, had written, "So proud of you for taking charge. You all deserve this break from the daily grind. Enjoy on me." Her sister Cynthia had chimed in, "Look how happy everyone looks. Freedom suits you all." But what hit hardest was Andrew's comment. For real, Dad would have ruined it anyway with all his worrying about money and schedules. "This is way better." Kimberly had added a string of heart and sunshine emojis to the post. My stomach turned. I scrolled further. More photos. There they were boarding a plane, lounging at a tropical resort, dining at an upscale restaurant. All posted within the past 24 hours. They'd gone on vacation without me. On my birthday, the realization hit like a punch to the chest. I sank heavily onto one of the kitchen stools, my beer forgotten. My throat tightened, and a pressure bloomed behind my eyes. Hands shaking. I grabbed my phone and called Jessica. Straight to voicemail. I tried Andrew. Same thing. Then Kimberly. Nothing. I sent texts to all three. "Where are you? Why didn't you? Tell me about this trip." No response. None of it made sense. We weren't wealthy. I worked long, exhausting hours at the accounting firm just to keep us afloat. Pay the mortgage, save for the kids' education, stay on top of bills. Vacations were rare and modest. A weekend trip here and there, sometimes a week at my brother's beach house if he offered. So how had they pulled this off? Where had the money come from? A growing sense of dread pushed me to open our banking app. There it was, a withdrawal. $43,000 made just days ago. It was the money we'd been saving for Andrew's apartment deposit. I'd worked overtime for months to build that up. I kept scrolling. Credit card charges at high-end stores, resort bookings, airline tickets. Then a transaction caught my eye. A payment to a credit card I didn't recognize. I logged into our full account dashboard, dug deeper. There it was, a credit card in Jessica's name, one I hadn't known about, and I was listed as the guarantor. Over $122,000 in debt, charges stretching back 6 months. spa treatments, designer clothes, upscale restaurants I'd never even heard of. My head was spinning. I'd always handled our finances carefully, deliberately, making sure we lived within our means. Jessica used to tease me for being too cautious, too much of a worrier, but I thought we agreed. We had shared goals, shared priorities. Apparently not. I reopened Instagram and scrutinized the photos. Jessica was wearing a sleek, expensive-looking dress I'd never seen before. Andrew sported designer sunglasses. Kimberly had a new bracelet, gold glinting in the sun. I picked up my beer and downed it in a single gulp, then another. By midnight I was 4 beers in, sitting in the dark living room, endlessly scrolling through their posts, watching them smile, laugh, relax, spending money we didn't have, on a vacation I should have been part of. My phone stayed silent. Not a single message. Not one of them had wished me a happy birthday. As the clock struck midnight, marking the quiet end of my 50th year, something inside me shifted. The hurt that had been simmering all evening began to harden, crystallizing into something cold, sharp, and unyielding. I closed Instagram, opened my laptop, and I started documenting everything. The next morning I woke with a pounding headache, but also a strange clarity I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in over a decade, I called in sick to work. Marjorie, my supervisor, sounded surprised. "Everything okay, Thomas? You never take time off." "Family emergency," I replied, the words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. I spent the entire day combing through our financial records line by line. What I found made my stomach turn. Jessica had been draining our accounts for months. It started with small withdrawals, subtle enough not to raise suspicion. Then, gradually larger amounts spaced out just enough to slip under the radar. The credit card debt was only the surface. I uncovered a hidden checking account in her name, one I'd never known existed. There were transfers from our joint savings, unexplained ATM withdrawals, and frequent cashback requests on grocery store receipts, cash that never made it home. And all the while, I was working 60-hour weeks, coming home bone-tired, grateful for the cold leftovers Jessica would sometimes leave in the fridge after nights out with the girls, driving my decade-old Honda because we couldn't afford a new car, wearing the same 3 suits to work, carefully rotating them because the budget was tight this month. All lies. I printed everything. Bank statements, credit card bills, transfer logs, screenshots of social media posts. I organized them in a binder sorted chronologically, a meticulous paper trail of betrayal. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a new notification, another post from Jessica, this time a video, Andrew and Kimberly parasailing, their laughter carried by the wind, the ocean sparkling beneath them. The caption read, "Giving my babies the experiences they deserve, making memories, not stuff," Edward had commented. "That's how you parent. Experiences over things any day. So glad I could help make this happen." Cynthia chimed in with her usual passive aggression. They looked so happy. Thomas would never have allowed this kind of unnecessary risk. LOL. His loss. I took screenshots, added them to the growing folder. On my desktop, by evening I had pieced it all together. The vacation hadn't been a spontaneous escape. It had been carefully planned for weeks. Edward had paid for the resort, but Jessica had drained our savings for the flights, excursions, and a shopping spree. That hidden credit card, it had funded everything else. New clothes, salon appointments, even cosmetic procedures, and I hadn't noticed. The most brutal blow came when I found synced text messages on our family cloud account. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. Jessica to Edward. He has no idea. Thinks I'm planning a small birthday dinner. Almost feel bad. But honestly, he wouldn't enjoy it anyway. Always worried about money. This way, everyone gets what they want. Edward's reply. He's had 50 years to learn how to enjoy life and failed. You deserve this break from his negativity. The kids do too. I've always said he was too rigid for you. Consider this vacation my gift to help you all remember what happiness feels like. I sat there stunned, letting the weight of it crash down. It wasn't just the money, though, that mattered. It was the intention behind it, the precision of the exclusion, the effort it took to celebrate without me on my birthday. They didn't just forget me. They erased me. I was the provider, not the partner, the workhorse, not the father, the wallet, not the man. They left me here with silence and shadows while they toasted each other under a tropical sun. That night, I opened the bottle of whiskey I'd been saving for a special occasion, poured a glass. Just as I brought it to my lips, my phone rang. Jessica. Her name lit up the screen like a punch. I answered. My voice was steady despite the storm inside me. "Hey," she said brightly, cheerful as ever, waves and laughter echoing behind her. "Just checking in." "How are you doing?" As if she had just stepped out to pick up milk. As if she hadn't orchestrated my complete and total betrayal. "Where are you?" I asked, though I already knew. "Oh, didn't you see my posts?" Jessica's voice was light, breezy. "We're in Cabo. Dad surprised us with a family vacation last-minute thing. Couldn't pass it up." The casual lie sparked something dangerous in me. On my birthday, I said a pause. "Oh, is that today?" "I'm so sorry, Thomas." With all the excitement, it completely slipped my mind. "We'll celebrate when we get back." "Okay, I'll make it up to you." "When are you coming back?" Not for 2 weeks. Isn't it great? The kids are having such an amazing time." Andrew is actually smiling in photos for once. No moody scowl. 2 weeks, I repeated, voice carefully neutral. "And you didn't think to mention it? You just left." Her tone shifted, turning defensive. "Don't start, Thomas. You're always working anyway. It's not like you take time for family fun. Besides, Dad arranged everything so fast. You know how he gets when he's got an idea in his head." "I see. And the $4,000 from our savings, the money for Andrew's apartment deposit. Edward arranged that too." Silence. "Look," she finally said, "we needed spending money. The resort's all-inclusive, but there are excursions and shopping. Andrew needed clothes and gear for the trip, and he'll still need furniture eventually and the secret credit card, the one with $122,000 in debt. That for excursions, too." Her voice chilled. "You've been snooping through my things. That's private." "Thomas, I don't question how you spend your money. It's not my money, Jessica. It's our money. Money I earn. Working. Those long hours you love to mock." "I have to go," she snapped. "We're heading to dinner. Let's not ruin this vacation with your negativity. This is exactly why I needed a break." And just like that, she hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, then at the binder of evidence spread out across the table. Something inside me locked, into place, cold, clear, immovable. That night, I began preparing. For the next 2 weeks, I lived a double life. At work, I was still dependable, steady Thomas. Though for the first time in years, I kept my hours at 40 a week. At home, I was quietly dismantling the life I had spent decades building. Piece by piece, step by step. No more blind loyalty. No more being the last to know. I opened a new account at an entirely different bank and had my paychecks redirected. There, quietly, without a word, I canceled the credit card Jessica thought I didn't know existed. I spoke discreetly with a divorce attorney just to understand my options. No commitments? Not yet. I began documenting everything. Every major expense I'd covered for the family over the past 5 years. Mortgage payments, car insurance, utility, bills, groceries, the kids' school fees, medical expenses, vacations, even Jessica's self-care rituals, which had somehow morphed from occasional indulgences into monthly line items, spa appointments, hair treatments, shopping splurges labeled as essentials. I created spreadsheets, tracked every dollar, compared my income contributions to hers, part-time shifts at the art gallery, more social outlet than serious job. The numbers told a story that words couldn't. Meanwhile, I monitored their social media like a silent observer, post after post from paradise. I added each one to my growing dossier. Andrew parasailing, Kimberly showing off her beach-braided hair, Jessica beaming at a spa, laughing over lobster dinners, posing on yachts, flaunting, souvenirs that looked suspiciously like designer handbags. Not once after that initial phone call did any of them reach out again. No follow-ups, no apologies. My occasional texts were met with brief replies, fine or busy now. I saw Kimberly's TikTok, her giggling as she called it an escape from Dad's fun-free zone. Andrew tweeted something about how the old man would keel over if he saw the cost of this trip. But why? Through it all, I stayed calm. The sting of betrayal had crystallized into a kind of cold precision. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about justice, about consequences, about making myself seen, finally undeniably visible. The day before their return, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, there stood Edward, expensive golf shirt stretched across his soft belly. Silver hair slicked back, undisturbed by the heat. His smile had that polished confidence of someone who thought they still held the upper hand. "Thomas," he said, skipping any pretense of politeness. "We need to talk." I stood in the doorway, blocking his path. I didn't move. I didn't invite him in. "About what, Edward?" "Jessica called me. Said you've been giving her a hard time about the vacation." "Look, son, sometimes a family just needs space to reconnect without outside pressures." "Outside pressures?" I echoed. "You mean me? The husband? The father? The one who funds the life you're all so busy enjoying without me?" He sighed, exaggerated and full of exasperation. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. That attitude, that negativity. Jessica's been dealing with it for years. The kids, too. Would it really kill you to just be happy for them? To let them enjoy something nice without making it about money?" "You mean my money?" I said. "The money that pays for this house, the one you're standing in front of. The money that covers the bills, the groceries, the cars, the school fees, the life you seem to think I don't deserve to be part of." His face clouded over. "Now you listen here. Jessica is my daughter. Those kids are my grandchildren. I have every right to give them things you're too tight-fisted to provide. If you were half the man—" "No, Edward," I cut in, my voice calm but sharp. "You listen, you don't have the right to show up here uninvited. You don't have the right to interfere in my marriage, to manipulate my children, or to spend a cent of my money behind my back." "My money," he snapped. "I paid for that vacation. Did you pay for the $4,000 Jessica pulled from our savings? Did you cover the secret credit card she's been running up? Did you pay for the new wardrobes, the salon visits, the cosmetic procedures?" He hesitated just for a moment. Then he puffed up again. "Jessica deserves nice things. If you won't provide them, get off my property, Edward." He blinked. "Excuse me. The next time you want to see your daughter or grandkids, you can do it at your house or a public place. Not here. Not in the home I pay for. You can't be serious." "I've always had access to this house. I helped with the down payment. Remember?" "Oh, I remember. You've made sure of that for 15 years. You called it a gift, but apparently it came with strings I didn't see until now. I'm cutting those strings." "Jessica will hear about this," he warned, red creeping up his neck. "I'm counting on it," I said, and I shut the door in his face. Later that evening, my phone lit up with messages. Jessica. Furious that I dared to stand up to her father. Cynthia calling me controlling and toxic. Even my own children texting to say I'd embarrassed them, that I'd gone too far. I didn't respond. I just kept going with my preparations. The next afternoon, I heard their car pull into the driveway. I was waiting at the kitchen table, evidence binder open, a single glass of water beside me, calm, steady. The front door burst open. Jessica stormed in, face flushed with anger and sun, designer sunglasses pushed up like a crown of indignation. "How dare you speak to my father that way?" she snapped. No greeting, no pause after everything he's done for this family. Andrew and Kimberly trailed behind her, their expressions caught between defiance and discomfort. I didn't rise. I didn't raise my voice. "Hello, Jessica." "Andrew." "Kimberly, did you enjoy your vacation?" "Don't change the subject," Jessica barked. My father called me in tears. You threatened to call the police on him. Have you completely lost it? I asked him to leave my property after he showed up uninvited to tell me I don't provide enough for my family. I said evenly, the same family that went on vacation without me, on my birthday, using money we saved for Andrew's apartment. Andrew shifted uncomfortably. Kimberly stared at the floor. Jessica waved it off. Oh, please don't be so dramatic. It wasn't personal. You're always busy with work. We didn't want to ruin your precious routine. We'll replace the money. Dad said he'd help. Of course he did. I gestured to the chairs. Sit, all of you. We need to talk. I don't have time for this, Jessica said. We just got back. There's laundry unpacking. Sit down right now. My voice was quiet, but this time it landed. They sat a little stunned. I opened the binder. Let's start with the finances. For the next hour, I laid everything out clearly, methodically. The secret credit card, the savings. Account emptied without discussion, the social media posts. Mocking my absence, the text messages planning to leave me out. I walked them through the pattern, the financial recklessness, the emotional disregard, the growing culture of exclusion. I showed spreadsheets, exact breakdowns of where the money went, who paid what, how our lifestyle was sustained. And then I showed them projections. What would happen if I stopped contributing? How fast the mortgage would default, when the cars would be repossessed, how quickly the illusion of comfort would collapse. Dad, this is boring. Andrew cut in. We get it. You're mad we went on vacation, but it's not like you would have enjoyed it anyway. You always complain about money. I'm not mad that you went on vacation, Andrew, I said, still calm. I'm hurt that you deliberately excluded me. I'm concerned that you think it's okay to burn through your future for a few days of luxury. And I'm disappointed that you'd mock me, publicly, for working hard to support the very life you take for granted. Andrew had the grace to look ashamed, but Kimberly spoke up, her voice soft. You're always working, she said. You're never around for family stuff. Mom says it's because you care more about your job than us. I looked at Jessica to her credit. She flushed. I work, I said carefully, to pay for this house, for your education, the food you eat, the clothes you wear. I work so that you can have. The chances I never did. I work because I thought that's what a good husband and father does, provides for his family. If that's been twisted into meaning, I don't care. Then we have a much deeper problem than I realized. So what now? Jessica asked stiffly, her voice tight. What's with all this documentation? Are you building a case against us? Planning to divorce me? I haven't decided, I said honestly. But things are going to change. Starting today, I laid out the new terms. I would continue covering the mortgage and the essential utilities. I would provide a reasonable allowance for groceries and household necessities. I would maintain the children's education funds. Everything else, Jessica's personal spending, luxury items, entertainment, vacations, would need to come from her own income or Edward's so-called generosity. You can't do that, Jessica shot back. That's financial abuse. No, Jessica, I said. Financial abuse is taking money set aside for your son's future to fund a vacation you deliberately excluded your husband from. Financial abuse is opening secret credit cards in your partner's name. Financial abuse is draining shared resources while contributing as little as possible yourself. So this is punishment, Andrew said bitterly. No, I replied. This is boundaries. This is me stepping out of the background and making myself visible again. This is your chance, all of you, to decide what kind of relationship you want to have with me going forward. Kimberly, always the more sensitive one, had tears brimming in her eyes. Dad, I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know about the money. I thought Grandpa was paying for everything. I softened. I know, sweetheart. We'll talk more, just you and me later. Jessica stood abruptly, chairs scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous, she snapped. I'm calling my father. Go ahead, I said. But understand something. I've already consulted with an attorney. I know exactly what I'm entitled to and what I'm obligated to provide. So, If you want to escalate this, I paused. My voice even know that I'm ready. I'm prepared. She stared at me, then really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in years, she saw the man beneath the provider, the person behind the ATM. "You've changed," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "I've just stopped being invisible." The weeks that followed were tense. Jessica moved into the guest room, her anger simmering beneath every word and glance. Andrew barely spoke to me, choosing instead to spend most of his time at friends' houses. Only Kimberly made any effort to reconnect, asking how my day was, sitting with me in the evenings while I read, her quiet presence of balm in the growing silence. Edward made 2 more attempts to insert himself into the situation. The first time he showed up with gifts, a designer watch for me, theater tickets for Jessica and me, and a proposal for a second honeymoon, a peace offering he called it. I declined politely but firmly. "Our issues can't be solved with gifts, Edward. They require honesty and mutual respect." The second time, he brought Cynthia with him. They arrived as though staging an intervention, ready to fix the situation with opinions and judgment. I didn't entertain it. "My marriage is between Jessica and me," I said, "not something for a family committee to vote on." Jessica's mood fluctuated between defiant outrage and a grudging recognition that maybe, just maybe, she'd gone too far. We went to one marriage counseling session. It was a disaster. She spent the entire hour listing my failures as a husband, my so-called obsession with money, my inability to have fun, my seriousness. When the therapist gently suggested that excluding me from a family vacation on my milestone birthday might have played a part in the breakdown, Jessica stood up and walked out. At work, I held firm on my new boundaries. "Despite Marjorie's protests, we need you on the Peterson account. No one else has your eye for detail." I stuck to my hours. "I'm available from 9 Crossern to 5 Coolris Monday through Friday," I told her. Outside of that, I'm focusing on my personal life. The first time I left at 5 p.m. sharp, the office stared at me like I'd grown a second head. By the third time, it had become routine. I used my reclaimed time to rediscover who I was. I joined a Saturday morning cycling group. I took a cooking class on Wednesdays. I finally started reading the books that had been gathering dust on my nightstand for years. Andrew's attitude began to shift one afternoon after he had some friends over. I was in the next room when I overheard their conversation. He was explaining, clearly frustrated, why the new gaming console he promised them hadn't shown up. "My dad's being a total hard ass about money right now," he said, his voice carrying that familiar edge of resentment. "So I need to learn the value of $1 or whatever." Typical boomer talk. "That sucks," one of his friends replied. "My dad's the same way, always going on about budgets and saving. Meanwhile, he just bought himself new golf clubs. At least your dad actually spends money on himself." Another friend chimed in. "Thomas doesn't buy anything. Still drives that old Honda even though he could totally afford something better. Yeah, but he's not working all those crazy hours anymore either." Andrew admitted he's actually home for dinner, most nights now. "It's weird. Your dad's cool, though." One of them said, "Remember when he helped us build that skateboard ramp last summer? And he didn't even flip out when Josh broke his arm trying that trick. I guess he's just always been super serious about everything." Andrew replied, "Dude," one of the boys said, "my dad would have killed me if I stole $4,000 from our savings. Your dad just made some spreadsheets and talked it out. That's pretty chill, actually. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but hearing my son's friends share their perspectives, and catching Andrew's reluctant shift in tone sparked a flicker of hope. The real breakthrough, though, came unexpectedly about a month after they had come home. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, something I'd recently taken up when Kimberly walked in, clutching her phone. "Dad, can I talk to you?" "Of course, sweetheart." I set down the knife and wiped my hands. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking a lot about the vacation, about everything," she said, nervously twisting a strand of hair around her finger, just like she used to when she was little. "I found these old photos on my phone," she continued, swiping through her gallery before handing it to me. They were pictures I'd never seen before. Me steadying her bike as she learned to ride. My hand firm on the seat as she wobbled forward. Me cheering at Andrew's middle school basketball games, family picnics, birthdays. Quiet, happy moments that I had lived but had never seen from the outside. Moments I'd been there for fully present. Moments they had noticed after all. "Mom always said you were too busy for us," Kimberly said quietly, "but you were there a lot. I guess I just forgot." I was there. I agreed. Though maybe not always as fully as I should have been. Sometimes my mind was on work or bills when it should have been completely focused on you and your brother. That's something I'm working to change. "I'm sorry about the vacation," she murmured, her eyes welling with tears. "I knew it was your birthday. I even made you a card, but then Mom said we were going to surprise you with a trip when we got back. She told us you were too busy to come, and I believed her." I pulled her into a hug, feeling her slender shoulders begin to tremble as the sobs took over. "It's okay, Kimberly," I whispered. "You're 16. You shouldn't have to carry the weight of adult choices or misunderstand relationships. That's on your Mom and me." "Are you going to get divorced?" she asked, her voice small and afraid. "I don't know," I said. "Honestly, that depends on a lot of things. Whether your mom and I can rebuild mutual respect, and whether we still want the same future?" She nodded, her head resting lightly against my chest. "Grandpa says you're being controlling and cruel," she said after a moment. "But it doesn't seem that way to me. You're just different now. More, I don't know, present. I'm trying to be," I told her. "I'm trying to stop being invisible in my own life." That conversation was a turning point in the weeks that followed. Both Kimberly and more slowly, Andrew began to reconnect with me. We talked. Really talked. I helped with homework again. We watched movies together. I showed up at Kimberly's debate tournament and cheered at Andrew's track meet. Not just as the silent provider in the background, but as an involved, engaged father. Jessica watched these changes with a complex mix of emotions I couldn't quite read. Resentment, perhaps. Confusion. Maybe possibly even a trace of regret. We were in a strange limbo, neither hostile nor reconciled, just existing side by side. One evening as I sat at the kitchen table going over bills, Jessica sat down across from me. "My dad thinks I should divorce you," she said without any lead-in. "He says you're emotionally abusing me by controlling the finances." I set down my pen and looked at her. "And what do you think, Jessica?" She looked away, hesitating. "I think we've both made mistakes. I shouldn't have taken that money or gone on that trip without telling you, especially not on your birthday. That was cruel. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd heard. And I should have been more present," I admitted, "more engaged. Not just financially, but emotionally, too. With you, with the kids. So where does that leave us?" she asked. I took a moment to really consider the question. "I'm not sure," I said. "Can you see a future where we're partners again, where decisions are made together, resources shared openly, and mutual respect is the foundation?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Can you see a future where you're not tracking every dollar I spend? Where you trust me again?" "Trust has to be rebuilt," I said. "On both sides." She nodded slowly. "I've been looking into a full-time position at the gallery. The owner's expanding. Needs an assistant manager. It would mean more hours, more responsibility, but also better pay. That sounds like a good opportunity." I told her it would give you more financial independence and maybe help you better understand what I've been carrying all these years. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a beginning. 6 months after my 50th birthday, my life looked completely different than I ever could have imagined. Jessica and I were still together, though the nature of our relationship had shifted. We were in weekly counseling, working often painfully, through years of unspoken resentment, mismatched expectations, and buried hopes. It was exhausting, difficult work, but it was necessary if we wanted to rebuild something real. Jessica now worked full-time at the gallery and was, for the first time in our marriage, contributing meaningfully to our household finances. Earning her own money, creating a budget, and planning for the future had given her a new appreciation for what I'd shouldered all those years. I never realized how stressful it is, she admitted one night. Being responsible for other people's livelihoods, making sure there's always enough. My relationship with Andrew had improved dramatically since he started his first part-time job at a local cafe. The experience of exchanging his time for money and figuring out how many hours he had to work to buy the things he wanted taught him more about responsibility than any lecture I could have given. "Dad," he said one afternoon, "remember how I wanted to major in philosophy? I'm thinking of double majoring in business now." "Philosophy and business?" "Oh," I asked, keeping my tone light, "what changed your mind?" "I still love the big questions," he said, grinning, "but I'm starting to see how important it is to understand how companies work, how money works after what happened with us. I just never want to be financially clueless again." You know, Kimberly had become my fiercest defender. I once overheard her on the phone with Edward, firmly standing her ground. "Grandpa, you don't even know Dad." She told him, "You never tried to. You just decided he wasn't good enough for Mom and treated him like he didn't exist. That's on you, not him." As for Edward and me, we maintained a cold truce, a surface-level peace for the sake of the family. Surprisingly, Cynthia had become something of an ally after her own husband had a health scare that forced them to look seriously at their finances. "You were right to be careful with money," Cynthia admitted during a family dinner. Something I never would have imagined hearing from her 6 months earlier. We've been living beyond our means for years, convincing ourselves we deserved it. Now Paul, Cynthia's husband, can't work for at least half a year, and we're terrified of losing the house. As for me, I was still finding my footing in this new version of life. Still learning how to be present without hovering, engaged without burning out. I was discovering how to be valued, not just for what I provided, but for who I was. I'd rekindled passions I'd long since set aside. Photography, hiking, playing guitar. They'd once been casualties of my focus on work and family, but now they were lifelines. I'd made genuine friendships through my cycling group built on shared joy rather than obligation. At work, I'd taken on a mentorship role, helping younger colleagues navigate not only professional paths, but personal boundaries. "The company will take everything you're willing to give," I told a bright junior accountant who reminded me painfully of myself at that age. "It's on you to decide what's off limits." My 50th year hadn't unfolded anything like I'd envisioned. There had been betrayal, pain, anger, loss, but there had also been growth, clarity, reconnection, and in its own unexpected way, redemption. On the evening of my 51st birthday, I came home to warm lights glowing through the windows and the unmistakable scent of my favorite meal drifting from the kitchen. Jessica, Andrew, and Kimberly were there waiting. A homemade cake sat on the table, modestly wrapped gifts nearby. "Happy birthday, Dad," Kimberly said, wrapping me in a hug. "We remember this year," Andrew added with a sheepish grin. Across the room, Jessica met my gaze. Her expression was layered. Regret for what had passed, uncertainty for what lay ahead, but also a quiet, honest warmth. "Happy birthday, Thomas," she said softly. "Thank you for giving us another chance." Looking around at my healing, imperfect family, I understood that the greatest gift I received wasn't the cake or the presents, or even their presence. It was the recognition. I was no longer a background figure, a walking bank account, the reliable fixture taken for granted. I was seen. Seen as Thomas Martin, husband, father, man. I had become visible again, first to myself and then to them. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, I faced it with open eyes and an unwavering resolve. I would never vanish into the background again. The invisible man had awakened, and I was here to stay. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.